Hello, everybody. Welcome for the final day of the summit. That's right. The beginning of the end is upon us of everything. That's right. After Set 8 Monster Attack launch, the world is ending. That's right. So thank you for joining us.
I guess we're not having the mid-set.
On this lovely Sunday. My name is Frodan. I'm just your host for the beginning segment. We have a developer Q&A with 4 fantastic Riot devs and myself. So let's go ahead and introduce them to the couch. Let's start off with Kent to my far right. Say your name, say what you do, and your favorite thing about Set 8.
Ooh, okay. Hello, everyone. My name's Kent. I'm a game designer. I primarily work on balance and augment stuff with Mort.
Oh, we found him. We found him. Who's balancing this game?
It's
Kent some of the times?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, my favorite thing about Set 8, hero augments are great. You get to play Poppy carry sometimes, and just like bonk, one-shot the backline. A lot of fun.
That is very fun for sure, especially if you're the one doing it, not the one getting bonked. All right, let's go next to him. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, I'm Alex. I'm the product lead for TFT Gameplay, so working with Kent and Mort on live and balance stuff, working on all the sets we have in development, now Hyper Roll and Double Up as well. So pretty much anything in game. My favorite part about Set 8, definitely the threats. Oops All Threats is the best comp. Please play it. It's so fun.
Sorry, which comp?
Oops All Threats.
Oops All Threats. Yes. Just basically, I call it threat vomit. You just kind of just pick whatever you want and just onto the board. Really fun stuff. Let's start off with this bearded gentleman. Please introduce yourself to the stream and tell us what exactly you do for Riot Games.
Do I do nobody's balancing this game. I'm Mort. My official title is the gameplay director. My job is to make sure TFT is as fun as it can possibly be, working with the rest of the team, the designers across the sets, the gameplay, the balance, anything in general, just make sure the game is fun. Any player issues, bring them to light, stuff like that.
So you literally are the fun police.
In a way.
For TFT.
In a way, yes.
Ah,
that's actually
interesting.
true.
Interesting. What was your most favorite thing about Set 8 so far?
Recon Belveth. I just love Recon Belveth dashing around and slapping everything repeatedly. That's my favorite.
Yes, I love that. Belveth is really fun. Recon in general for some of these melee champs. I think Jack's another contender of the coolest holder of that. It's like a Gundam mech fight. We have Christine on the far end. Please introduce yourself to the stream.
Hi, I'm Christine. I'm the delivery lead for all of our cosmetics content. So I make sure that our teams ship our content on time, but also make sure that we create a lot of fun content for the players, including all the Star Guardian Lux content that we have in the set, and also the arenas.
Awesome, fantastic. Well, the arena itself is really cool. The classroom.
Yeah.
Is there a proper name for this map that we can get?
Everything goes on.
Oh, everything goes on. Oh, wow.
If you listen closely, it is that song.
You get a life lesson and you get a map. That's really expensive. Okay, cool. So let's go through the Q&A that we're going to have with the developers. I apologize. I'm using a laptop right now. High-tech stuff. So a lot of people send in their questions beforehand with online web submissions. Some people prefer to be anonymous. We'll say that. So we're going to start things off. We'll start with the category that best fits your questions, called about traits. This is from Checo. With Camille's support augment Hextech Retributions, do the dummies spawned by the prankster trait give bonus damage to the team on death? Who wants to take this question?
Yeah, I can take this one. So this is something we're trying to work on formalizing a little bit better, but the idea is that in the game there are the champions that you put on the board, and then there is going to be basically like, I forget the name we're using for it. Do you guys remember the name?
Summoned units.
Summoned units.
So summoned units, which are like things like Zac clones, target dummies, anything like that, Zerat portals. All of those do not count and will not be counting for stuff like that in the future. So for Prankster, no, it does not count for the Camille augment.
Okay. What about Syndra's bench units?
Same thing. That would be considered a summoned unit. The only thing that counts as a champion is something that started on your board as part of your initial team.
Fair enough. I think people get confused because Syndra is throwing a champion onto the board, but that's really good clarification. All right, we're off to the races. We got a lot of them, so we're going to crank through it. This one is champ/set design. What was the conversation around giving Cho'Gath a better Vel'Koz ult than Vel'Koz? This is from Anonymous. He doesn't want to be revealed. Anyone want to take this? Kent?
Yeah, Mort, you can.
Sure, I can
take
take
he
it.
wants to talk about this one.
Well, I mean, I can. So the theme for Monsters Attack was sort of an homage to some of the traditional like kaiju movies. And so if you think of, Cho'Gath as one of the big kaijus, there was something really fun about just a giant Cho'Gath opening his mouth, shooting a big laser. And our sets team was really creative and wanted to kind of like homage to that kaiju style movie. So that's why Cho'Gath got a laser. And then once you had that laser, it was like, well, we don't want 2 lasers. So Vel'Kaz had a much more specific use, which was they wanted an anti-carry. So they made Vel'Kaz different. And it kind of made them more unique. Instead of just being Cho'Gath and Vel'Kaz, they were actually these unique threats that had been designed for the set.
Gotcha. I think that's really fair. Plus, I think they both feel like they have distinct identities in that sense. So well done to those who are accomplishing that.
We also want to stretch the identity of like what the champs can do. Like we want to expand the imagination for people that you love Cho'Gath. Like what else can Cho'Gath do in TFT that you can't get in other modes, which is exciting.
Oh, okay. So you're actively exploring design spaces that people don't really expect. Right? We had the first time I think Ari in Fates with her giant spirit bomb like cast. That's not something you see in Summoner's Rift either.
Exactly. Yep. And we don't want to. It's a nice line of expanding without losing like the core identity of a champion either, because players love Cho'Gath or they love Ari, so we want to give them like a cool new version of that without losing that core identity.
Right. The line we always draw is like Braum is never going to be like a spellcaster or an AD carry, but there might be cool, unique things we can do with Braum, the heroic tank guy.
Got it. Makes sense, man. Ooh, I'm looking forward to it. Perhaps a spoiler for something in the future. We'll see. All right, this is our third question. This is from a generic bird. This is about champions and set design. To everyone, with the industry as a whole becoming more and more complex and developers spending more and more time on Stack Overflow chatting, I'm sure you all take inspiration at times from other mediums. What is the weirdest inspiration that got into development phase or maybe into the full game? Also, Mort, take a sip of Pepsi.
There is no Pepsi here. I've been having to drink Coke.
Oh, the
nuts.
Low roll.
Wow, just be a flex drinker more, please.
Yeah. Kent, why don't you take this one?
Yeah, totally. I'm trying to think of like what is the best one that we've done, but we definitely like as designers we focus a lot on like having a broad range of inspiration. We like play other games, we watch a lot of different like shows and movies and everything, and kind of draw from that and to create different fantasies that we can play off of. Kind of blanking on like what's the best, what's a good inspiration that we've come off of.
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, yeah, no, I got one. So I think Spirit Bomb Ari is probably one of the best ones that we have. That one plus like this set we have, the prankster dummies. Like ninjas, they do the thing, they port away, and then they spawns a little dummy for you to kill. That kind of stuff. We try to be very like, we can take that in and we create this like different identity of like fantasy, and the smoke bomb and everything really sells that like.
I think Prankster's a really good example. Linda, the set lead for set 8, is a self-proclaimed weeb a little bit, and so that
Studies
sort
the
of
blade.
Study the blade, and so that sort of ninja replacement is sort of where Prankster was inspired from.
Linda in particular, like, just to give her a call out, like I'm not as big of a weeb as her, but I know she's very inspired by like JRPGs, like Bayonetta. Tons of anime.
Love that.
That is a lot of Linda's inspiration.
Yes. I heard, so another fan favorite champion in the past was Fiora from Gizmos and Gadgets, where she had this really crazy like sword fight for her ability. And I heard that was also what, people like Giovanni Devs were just studying. They're studying anime sword fighting in order to get like the poses correct, which is just so cool. I love those small little things, and it adds so much flavor to TFT.
And it's not just for gameplay as well. Like for the cosmetic side, we also draw inspiration from a lot of different things.
True.
One of the like memes, like our favorite. We always start from memes and then we look at something else most of the time. So that's why sometimes you can find a little meme here and there sprinkled.
Awesome. Well, we love our memes and emotes. All right, here's a fourth question from the Angry Romanian.
Wow. Big get.
It's a suggestion category. Woo.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Is there a way for you guys to set up a shop at the end of the year with all the skin chibis and arenas locked behind the gacha? I find it a bit unfair to having to buy a bunch of chests to get a skin. I would much prefer to just use RP on what I want.
So we are looking into ways to do that, and that is one of the things that we are considering as well. But we're definitely working on it right now, so I can't reveal too much yet, but the team is already looking into mechanics that we can do to make sure that we can bring that out to have that, basically have that function and feature to be able to host those kind of shops and get content out to the players.
Yep, makes sense to me.
I mean,
there's
I
not
want
enough
the
cutscenes.
arena from the past set pass, and I'm just like, when? Literally asking myself as well, when?
The thing I want to stress here is that, like, when we release, our cosmetics, we have a bunch of different price ranges and things like that. We try to make premium content, and so, whether something's available behind the eggs or something like that, that price range is probably still going to be pretty similar.
Okay.
And so we just want to make sure that, again, I know it can feel bad to not be able to get something you're looking for, but we have to keep that in mind, and that's why we try to make different price ranges for everybody. Yep.
So that makes sense. TFT's got to make money eventually. All right, let's go to our next question. It is from Summoner Ray Tonelin. It's a traits question. What was the inspiration for threats? Are having units without traits something you see being common in the future? Just anybody.
Yeah, so this one was interesting because we went through a lot of iterations with threats. Some threats were something we knew we wanted to do early on because, again, the whole theme was the monsters attack, and the monsters being the threats was pretty clear. We actually went through a version, for example, where every game you would actually get 2 free emblems. We called them hero assists at the time. And the idea was these units were actually built to use those emblems really well.
Okay.
But it ended up kind of being a little too narrow, and like a lot of verticals just kind of took over the game. So we ended up cutting that feature, and it became much better when they were just sort of these flexible units. That being said, it's always a risk, and with every set mechanic, we're not necessarily looking to make every set mechanic permanent.
Right.
Threats might just be the thing that you remember from Monsters Attack, and that would be a success. But I think we've all looked at the set and the flexibility and been like, this has been a success. How can we utilize this in the future?
And to add on to that, threats solve like a problem on your board where, sometimes you need anti-heal, you don't have it, you can put in Aurelion Soul. Sometimes you want to CC their major carry. The entire board on the enemy team is just Jax, and so you put in a Vel'Koz and just constantly CC that unit. Kind of all of these things solve a different problem for your board, and having that kind of flexibility is really fun and something we wanted to give everyone a chance to play with and try, and then we can see how everyone reacts to that.
Fantastic. All right, let's move on. This one is directly to Alex, our first targeted question for today. It's about champion and set designs. How important is it to keep up with the expectation for a champion ability and playstyle when including them?
Yeah, I think I kind of answered this one already.
Yeah.
I think it is that line of like, we want it to feel like Leona, I think, is a good example with this set. Like what Leona does is pretty different than you'll see in TFT, but it's not that far from like the fantasy of Leona in the lore or that deeper dive. So yeah, it's definitely something we're always striving for, and very experimental. We go through a lot of spell iterations at the very beginning and try to get it just right in playtest. So it's a very fun process, but we at the end we want players to feel like, oh, that's Leona. I'm so excited to play that version of Leona in this set.
Yep. Coming as a gamer from different backgrounds as well, right? You're looking at a lot of people who don't even necessarily know what they do on the Rift, right?
Yeah.
They're like looking at these champions. They may have seen them aesthetically. They may have seen them even in like Arcane. They're like, well, I don't even know that, Jinx can't do that or Ahri can't do that. I think it's really fascinating to push that boundary. Really well done.
That's why oftentimes it's like the silhouette of the champion matters, right? Like when I always use Braum as the example.
That's a good word. I like
when
that.
I see Braum with a big shield, if he's casting spells, that breaks a lot of my expectation.
Right.
Even as a casual who may not understand what Braum is.
Exactly. I like that. All right, this question's for Mort. Our first targeted question to Mort. That was previously by Anonymous. But this one is by Junichi. It's about favorite/personal opinions. Mort Dog, just want to wish you a happy birthday. How do you feel
Happy
when people have wished you a happy
Happy
birthday?
birthday, Mort.
Oh, stop. It is not my birthday. Stop it. This meme, man. I don't know how this meme started.
Because it's your birthday.
No, it's not.
I mean, because you were born. Your
Yeah.
mother and your father, who love you very much, decided to make you.
It started sometime this year, but it just went full steam, and now every stream constantly. I don't.
Chat spamming the Feels birthday, man.
Stop.
yeah.
Stop,
Feels
chat.
birthday.
No.
All right,
Yes, Chad.
so
No,
my
why?
takeaway from this question is Mort is very honored to be congratulated on his birthday,
Happy birthday.
every day
People
of the
love
year. And please send more
They
congratulations.
have my
every time
wife
you see
in on it now. She comes in random. It's like, oh, by the way, happy birthday.
We
I'm
don't
like,
totally
stop
get your
it.
kids
Wow,
to do
what a
it.
flex. You have a wife
Yeah,
that comes in
yeah.
every day to say happy birthday. What
Weird
the heck?
champ.
All right.
Weird.
All right. Well, this is the next question from Satlam Lung. This is another first favorite / personal opinion, but it's a cosmetics question. They ask, when is the next Hush Tale, Christine?
Very soon.
Okay.
Very soon.
So you revisit like old Little Legends
yes.
that are fan favorites.
Yes. So yeah, it's a combination of looking at our data, like of how popular it is and how thematically it's tied to whatever we have. For instance, like
Oh, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
A separate question. What Little Legend has the best average placement in TFT?
oh, that's I don't know.
Are you not allowed to share that? Is that like,
we can-
now
I'm
we're turning
looking
into
at our
pay to
data
win
guy
data?
over there. I was like,
I
do
want
you
to tag
know?
that with my Little Legends.
If you poke us next week, we can look
Yeah, we
up
can
that
figure that
data.
out, yeah.
But what I will say is, you're not like the difference is going to be like, well, this one's 4.47, and
Oh, he
but
actually
there
has
is
the
one
answer.
that's the best.
Oh.
that's
yeah,
the,
yeah.
that's
He
the
said
question
mythic
that I want to know.
cheese
We have
are
the answer.
actually the most average placed.
okay, interesting.
Sorry, what was that?
Mythic chibis.
Mythic. Oh, okay, sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sure it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
The finishers.
The ones that you pay hundreds of dollars for on average, yes.
Yeah.
Are
So
the
wait,
ones
did
that
you
do
just
the
admit
best.
we're pay to win? Is that what just happened?
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
No?
yeah,
What, you're gonna get us in
confirmed.
trouble?
All right, before we get more
Edge.
trouble from the
What
Riot
did I
team, let's
do?
go on to the next question. This one is by Motto Brick. This is about champions and set designs. Were there any set mechanics that never made it through closed testing phase?
Yeah, I can give a really good example here. For Dragonlands, for the start of the set, the mechanic we tested was called Dragon Eggs. And the idea was randomly in your shop, a dragon egg might appear. Each dragon egg had a different purpose. For example, like a red dragon egg was an item component. It would cost 7 gold. Or a purple dragon egg would be like a 2-star 3 cost, and it would cost like 11 gold. And these could just appear in your shop at various times. We even at the end had like gold eggs that had like champ duplicators or tactician's crowns and would cost like 20 gold. And these would just appear in your shop. And it was okay, but the challenge we kept running into is that people don't like having to pay for goodies. And there was this really awkward line where, like, let's say an item component was 4 gold. Well, obviously you buy it every time. But if an item component was 7 gold, why would you ever buy it? You're just killing your economy. And that line was so thin that it wasn't ever an interesting decision. It was either always buy it or never buy it. And that kind of got gross. And so we ended up having to cut that mechanic. It just never delivered.
Gotcha. Well, it also sounds very complex, like hard to understand, especially if it's your first few games of TFT, and we know there's a lot of crazy stuff that goes on.
Yep.
Fantastic. So we're through our first like 10 questions or so. We're gonna keep going, about 30. This one is another one to Mort Dog specifically. It's from Hachi Chicken. It's about champions and set designs. Mort Dog, will Bard have meeps in the future so he ain't lonely no more, as well as adding the celestial trait do lore? Wow, they wrote you a poem.
Wow.
Okay. I mean, I'll try to answer that as serious as I can. Bard's an interesting champion because his skill set is either really basic or, like, it has his ult, right? And his ult's a little troll. We did the ult. The rest of his skills don't really translate that well to TFT. That being said, I think Galaxy's Bard was a lot of fun selling the meeps.
Yes.
I would love to find more creative ways to use the meeps. I think there's a lot of rich design space there. And I would be shocked if we didn't go back to Bards at some point.
I think so. I
Is it
just think
acceptable
people
to
love the meeps on the bench kind of cheering for you.
Can you feed? Is it acceptable to feed the meeps to champions though?
So we'll have a set where we have set 3 Bard and Tom Kench, and you just feed the meeps to Tom Kench.
We're just one step removed from just having like a pet simulator or something like that. Just a Tamagotchi.
Yep.
Just take care of your champion on a TFT board.
And can we just give a shout out to Witty, who designs almost all the bards that have been in TFT?
Witty has designed all the Bards.
Witty is the
Love that.
mastermind behind the bard, so let's give him a
Whitrock.
shout out.
Yeah.
Man,
Witty.
I want to meet Whitrock one day. I think I've only just talked to him online.
He's
Seems
the
like
best.
a lovable nerd. All right, this one's about competitive TFT. It's really funny that Milk actually just walked right by because I'm sure this is a question that's on his mind. It's an anonymous person. It's about Double Up. Hi, I love Double Up mode and play almost as much in this mode and in normal mode. However, I don't think there's as much interest around the mode as there could be. I don't mean from Riot, but from the community. I don't see Double Up tournaments happening, and on the contrary, I see team events based on normal mode with a shared score. And I wonder if you agree that if you have any thoughts on improving Double Up mode in that regard, love the work. Cheers. Alex, maybe?
Yeah, I honestly, it's just a resourcing question of where we want to spend our time. Double Up's definitely something we want to give more love to. I would expect some changes probably in the next couple years when we really have more folks working on modes. But it was funny chatting with the folks here of like, it'd be so fun. Like they love the idea of doing Double Up in competitive, but then they talk about how dizzy they would get trying to actually make that happen. So I think for the sanity of all of our influencers and players, this is probably for the best.
Got it. So Riot devs are getting dizzy on the possibilities of Double Up. I mean, Milk, who's standing right there. Oh, you're just on camera, 5 feet away from me. Keeps talking about how hard Double Up is. He thinks it's like the most skill-expensive form of TFT.
So this is one of the.
You want to tell him?
Yeah.
Here.
Okay. Honestly, I actually wish that Double Up was a main competitive format for TFT because I actually it's so much more fun to play with someone and talk to them than just playing solo queue. And I think it's like much more complex than normal TFT. But the problem is it's too hard to play, and yeah. But I do wish it was a main competitive format.
Yeah, this is the interesting thing about Double Up, right? Is it serves a very clear player need. That player need is to play with your friends, right? People love playing games with their friends, and that's important. The challenge is that Double Up does have some pretty key differences from the core game, and the further you deviate from that core game, the harder it becomes to relate to it. So things like the reinforcements, the gift armories, those become another barrier to learning. And so we have to sort of resolve the, like, how do you keep Double Up unique and fresh, but also make it relatable for people who are having that solo queue experience. And that's going to be one of our big challenges moving forward before we can really take it to like a relatable, a competitive experience.
That makes sense to me. All right, well, thank you. That was a guest appearance from Milk. And we didn't get too off track. Let's go to the next question. This is another anonymous question. It's a suggestion. Oh, I love these. I'm a player who really likes to play for first. Getting second and getting eighth feels the same to me. Where's Milk? Would there ever be a consideration for a separate rank mode that treats second to eighth all the same? Wow.
Mort really wants to answer this one.
I mean, that sounds brutal. That sounds not like what we like. Oftentimes, I think you'll hear a lot of players talk about how getting first often means you kind of like high rolled a bit, but getting like second, third, or fourth means you played the game really well. I think we've seen multiple times on the cast where we're like, hey, this person who got third really played the best TFT. I can't say I'm particularly interested in that mode. That being said, as we explore like small game modes on the side, like maybe there's a room to like, hey, turn on this silly mode for a week or two and see how that feels. But as a core game mode, frankly, not a chance.
Yeah,
not a chance.
Yeah. Alternatively, like thinking about this question is, I think we need to we do have some room to make fourth and third, second feel better as like a win.
Yes.
We're giving you that plus 10 LP guaranteed kind of thing, but we can probably go further, not in LP space, but just making you feel like you did a good job if you fourth place because you technically won the lobby.
Yeah, I think there's some work that can be done in the end of game like ceremony that could feel a lot better for that fourth or third place.
Yep.
Makes sense. All right, so with that, we have a question directed to Alex. This is about set and champion designs again. As TFT grows, much of the player base has never played some of the older sets. Would there be consideration to reusing set mechanics that were popular in the past with a largely new set of units, for example, like Chosen or Galaxies? And as a follow-up question, would this be more interesting to do without a mid-set so it lasts less time and maybe allows you to move to 3 sets a year instead of 4? This will allow more time to develop each 100% new set. This is from Firestorm.
All right, I think they got a couple questions in there,
Yeah,
so I'll try to parse
questions
them. The first one in terms of bringing sets back, I think that'd be a really cool idea, and it's definitely something we've talked about quite a bit. There's obviously a lot of logistics behind actually doing that, like memory-wise on the client, just a lot of like back-end not exciting things to make that happen. But we've seen success with it. Over in China, they do it with past sets and bringing them back, so definitely something we want to explore. For the second part, we're always kind of evolving the way that we produce sets. We've been able to lengthen the timelines and make them healthier for the team to put out. So definitely more explorations to do and probably some ways that we can, continue to explore that pipeline in the future, but nothing to share yet.
Just as a side question, it's probably a really obvious one. It just feels like you just never have enough time to iron everything out. It feels like by the time you get like all the bugs and all the balance in the new state, it's time for the For Fun patch.
Yeah.
Which you have to time it around like the World Championship and everything like that.
Yeah.
It just feels like there's never enough time in TFT.
Yeah, it is pretty nutty. Mid sets in particular, Mort and I's eyes are normally twitching at some point.
They're chuckling a lot right now.
I mean, so like looking at
speaking to them personally.
Looking at 8.5, we have about 3 to 4-ish months to get the mid set out, but this time it also includes Thanksgiving break, Christmas break.
Oh,
so like, and we
true,
want
true,
people to take that time off. So the development time for a mid set is a crunch for sure.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
it is tight.
Plus, it's also like cosmetics is also dependent on a lot of the thematic stuff. So we're trying really hard to make sure that we make sure that the team is healthy as well. And there's just a lot of things happening. TFT is growing, the team is growing, and it's just we're kind of trying to figure that out on the production side right now. So
Love to hear that. TFT is indeed growing. Not dead game, Chad. Not dead game. Next
game
question. Sorry, Ken. Next question is another personal opinion question. This is from Anonymous. With the amount of data that you have to look at, is there any really strong playstyle that you have seen or have a hunch about that people are underutilizing or haven't caught onto yet as a consistent strategy for high placements? This is to anybody.
Ooh, trying to get the secrets out here.
Yeah, so a lot of people kind of misunderstand what data is. A lot of people really think that like data has these secret answers that people aren't understanding. And the reality is all data does is tell you what is, not what can be. And so oftentimes, data can be self-reinforcing. Data can perpetuate like the common play styles, things like that. Sample size really becomes an issue if people are trying to discover unknown things. So for example, in our data, we might see like, hey, Ginsu's Galio has a 3.8 average finish. So is Ginsu's Galio the secret? And the answer is, well, no, actually it just means they had a leftover Ginsu's and they were so far ahead. That's what that means. And it was also only a 7-game sample size.
Yep.
Froden's laughing because this example
This is a
literally came
conversation we
up.
had a couple nights ago.
And so, like, there is no magic answer to data. Data, that's just not how data works. Data is all about more understanding the existing ecosystem and then using that knowledge to try to get closer to the design intention to get us closer to a more balanced reality. So, yeah, we don't have this magical, mystical, giant wall of data that tells us, yes, if you take this champion and play them at exactly 2-5, you've just upped your odds by 3%.
Yeah, we
I
talk about
see.
this a lot on the balance team where, data is a representation of the current meta, not what could be. And an example we point to of this is when in the previous sets there was a Lucian carry, and in the data he was not good at all. But following week, no buffs, no changes, no patches, and he became the top unit of the game because somebody discovered how to play this champion. And so data doesn't necessarily paint the full story, and it doesn't reveal like the secret tech and things like that. It's about players innovating and figuring out how to put things together, and then it'll reflect into our data. And so a lot of our balance discussions are revolved around understanding the meta ourselves and understanding what players are trying to do.
Yeah.
But in terms of just dark tech, everyone's underrating Heart right now.
Okay.
Yo,
Just
I
like
agree.
a vertical heart?
Heart emblem, I think, is pretty good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I mean, I think people know about Zoe holding the heart emblem. Is there any other like secret tech around that?
I mean, I like it on Acel, actually.
Heart. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you want the Acel to be able to ramp a lot as
Yeah.
well. Okay. Interesting. Data is a very fascinating topic. I could spend here a long time talking about it, but we
Yep.
have to move on. I have my own opinions as well. This one's a question directed to Christine. The category is what's next? All right, a little bit of leaking. To Christine, is there a possibility that the next Chibis this set will include Mordekaiser? Or is it going to focus on Star Guardians only like last set with the Dragon Mancers?
So for the Chibis this set, we're actually, we felt like Star Guardians was a good start for set 8, so that's why we picked Star Guardian Lux, and then as we've talked about before, RB is also coming up next. But there's so many aspects to the monsters attack theme that it's not just going to be Star Guardian. So we do have other themes coming up in this set for Chibis, and you'll see why very, very soon. It's like we normally do take into what is in the set into account. Especially for like the first drop, but then we're free to do anything since then. Like we can tie it to different events, etc. So yeah, it's not very limited. But unfortunately, Mordekaiser is not here, not on the list in the short term.
Oh, no.
So
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
Not
yet.
yet.
But yeah, it says short term Mordekaiser is not there.
Love that. All right, thank you very much, Christine. That was by Johnny.
Sorry, Johnny.
Yeah, sorry, Johnny. This question is from Anonymous. This is a question to anybody. It's about champion and set design. Why is there always a minimum of one one cost carry who can take over the game and win. Currently, Camille, Nasus, and Kale can do this. Camille's not a one cost, but yes, I understand. Is there a specific reason why this has been common in recent sets?
Sure. I don't know if I would call it take over the game. Certainly, if they're taking over the game, that's just bad balance, and we need to fix that. But the reality is we do want as many playstyles possible as viable. And I think a lot of players kind of struggle with that a bit because players like their playstyle and don't like the others, right? There are clearly players that really despise reroll comps with low-cost units.
Yes.
But the reality is they're good for the game. The game is at its best when there are like 30, 40, 50 viable strategies and different ways to play. And that's going to happen by including low-cost carries, low-cost units, right? So something, we always look back at like Fate's Yasuo as kind of like the best example of this because you would get the one-star Yasuo 3-star, one-cost Yasuo 3-starred, and that would be good, but you couldn't really win the game unless you also then got to like 7 and 8, found the Yone, got that paired exile, and capped out that composition, but that was a unique strategy that was good. So we're going to keep including that, and you're going to have to deal with, like, yes, one-cost carries can be viable win conditions.
I want to see what kind of build he's playing for Kale to be taking over the game as the one cost carry, but I think they mean Ashe is probably what they were thinking about right now. It's a great answer, Mort. This next question is on another set design question. It's to anybody. It's from Saint. Why was Treasure Dragon removed? Having less RNG is surely beneficial to the game. With the anvils, you can play Samira with her carry augment and not be able to get a single sword the entire game. Replacing the Treasure Dragon seems regressive in removing as much RNG as possible to create a more skill-expressive game. Woof.
Okay.
Someone had a rough solo queue game.
Yeah, I'm gonna take this one. So I'll start with the nice answer, which is right. Like every mechanic is going to have an identity with the set, and we can't just keep adding more and more mechanics to the game, right? So like Treasure Dragon was part of Dragonlands. It's gonna go away. You know, hero augments are going to go away at the end of set 8. You know, like that's just the way it's going to be. We're going to have variety, and that's the reality. That's the nicer answer. The more harsh answer, though, here is that we talk about removing randomness, and like all randomness needs to be removed to make the game better. That is just fundamentally incorrect. The game would become very stale, very boring, and I don't think you realize what you're asking for if every game you can repeat the same sequence of events over and over, right? If every game is, I'm going to log in, go my Camille carry, make sure I get my swords, build the items, every game's going to become very repetitive. TFT is a game where you are supposed to be adapting to the random outcomes that you have been presented with, and the best skilled players can do that in a way and turn them into a highly, skilled composition. If you're logging in going, I better get my sword, you're doing it wrong. And that's just the truth of the matter. And the game is better for that. It will last longer. It will be a healthier game. That's just the facts.
Yeah, and the phrase that they tunnel on is skill expression. I would just want to say one piece is that I think a lot of people's favorite skill expressive multiplayer games that are out there on the market is a lot of times watching players fight against the systems. You're talking about fighting games like trying to break the rules of like their movement and flow. You're talking about StarCraft Brood War where they're just like fighting constantly against the ability to even move their units. TFT is about fighting the variant systems that are in there and being able to
Fighting
make the best of what you
Mortdog.
got. So I think that's another form of skill expression that Saint might not be missing there. But that's a really long topic. More could probably make a 20-minute rundown video on his YouTube, which I think he has. So let's move on. This question is from Atrox Esquire. So Bryce's associate. This is a question to Christine. Another what's next category. Christine, will chibis always necessarily be champions that are in the current set? Or could we see some that are just for a different audience / segment than the current set's aesthetic theme?
I think I answered that earlier briefly, but yes, like it can. Like I mentioned, like normally with the set launches, we want to tie it to the theme, the theme that the set is being released, because it will be the most resonant. But then during that time, like for instance, set 8 until set 8.5, there's a lot of things happening and will happen, and we're actually releasing stuff that is not necessarily tied back to the Monsters Attack theme. So
well, chat is now demanding Chibi Mortdog to be put into the game.
We talked about this last night. We don't want to go into that.
You're considering it. A cutscene featuring Mort Dog.
Shadow Mort
Yes.
or Radiant Mort. Which one will
And then
it be?
people can pick sides. It's like
yeah.
good versus Reckoning comes back 2.0.
Yes.
It's Shadow Mort Dog versus Radiant Mort Dog. Who gets more cutscenes gets like additional little leggings drops at the end of the set. Thoughts?
Well, this conversation's more better than last night. Last night was a little bit morbid, but
That's why you need to bring me into these meetings, Christine.
yes.
All right. Our next question is to anybody. Thank you, Aatrox, for that question. This one's by Sage Phillip.
Oh, no.
It's
Philip.
Whoa,
We're familiar.
So Sage Phillip was actually a design intern who worked with us a little bit during the mid-set for Dragonlands. And he's we've actually rehired him, and he's starting again in January, and he'll be joining the balance team. So we're excited to have him back.
He is
All right. So
he-
Philip is the one who will be balancing this game. Milk Soju. This one's okay. I guess this is an inside joke. It's a champion set design question. Can I make Rengar have 85 attack damage?
Okay, so the
Yeah.
story behind this is we're working on the mid set for Dragonlands, and Philip's new, and he makes his first champion. It was Rengar, and the first version has 85 base AD. And me being who I am, I was a little brutally. I'm like, dude, 80. You want 85 base AD on an assassin that's going to multiply with infinity? What? Yeah, okay, good luck with that.
Yeah.
with how strong he was already, it's like,
And to the shock of no one, the first playtest we did, I was like, oh yeah, he turns out one auto and he deletes everything. Weird. How did that happen? And so, I like to kind of poke the team a little bit. They learn from the mistakes.
right.
And so you can clearly see that 85 AD has stuck with Philip.
everyone has their inside jokes with what Mort had said about that.
True. What like a content creator type reaction, more to like be so extreme and be like, wow, I can't believe this. It was so embarrassing.
Balancing this game.
Man, I like it. Mort does have that Shadow Mort Dog side. That video was more of a documentary, not a parody. All right, our next question is another champion and set designs question from Shieldy Boy. Why does re-rolling not protect you from getting the same champions you re-rolled away from? This is to anybody.
Yeah, I could talk about that. Chop blacklisting is something that we have talked about. We have tried for a bit in the past, and that kind of mechanic, ended up the way we expected it to end out, where it was way too easy to hit exactly what you wanted all the time, and re-roll would take over. With the way our current shop system works and the way our unit bag system works, it became just way too easy to hit what you needed.
Yeah, the short version is if there are 13 units you can re-roll, especially at low cost units when you're level 3, taking 5 of them out really increases the odds of hitting any particular one pretty dramatically, and that is a massive shift. It ended up being an excessively high buff to reroll compositions.
Right. Just imbalances the playstyles that you're talking about. You want reroll to be viable but not overbearing. I mean, we had a couple sets like that, and everyone does not remember them that fondly.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much, Shieldy Boy. Next question. This one's to Kent directly.
Oh.
It's from Jazzpat. It's a champions and set question. To Kent, how fun is it to create and visualize a new set, and how hard is it to implement it?
Oh, that's a great question.
Linda here.
It's a lot of fun. I'm currently working on one of the future sets, and it's so much fun to visualize how the set will play out, come up with the most exciting moments that we have, those dreamy, hype moments, what we want to see players eventually reach. That's their dream goal. And as far as implementing that, it's a lot of time to try things out. Our design process is very iterative, so we put things in, we try it out, we test it, we see, is it fun, is it exciting? And when we see players hit it, it's that could be more satisfying, so we increase it, make it better there. Or it's just straight up I sounded cool on paper, and that was a good idea, but we need to go somewhere else because that just didn't play out. And so it's a long process of trying and failing and re-implementing those designs, but it's so much fun to just imagine what could be, and that 1 in 50 game that someone gets to hit, we want that to be super exciting.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Feel free to just pass on this. How many times, not how many times, has there ever been a moment where it's really late night, you're getting delusional, maybe you're hanging out with coworkers, and you come up with what seemingly is the dumbest idea ever, and then you run with it, and ends up making it into this, ends up becoming a huge hit? Is there anything that's ever happened like
Curl
that?
packed. I have thoughts when I drive, when I shower, it's just blank, and I'm just thinking, and those I feel I get the weirdest inspirations at those times, and it just hits, and sometimes that could work, you know? And then we try it out, and sometimes it fails, and Mort knows, sometimes it fails. And sometimes it's fun. It's, you know, Cruel Pact, you go to level 7, you roll it down, you have a way different game than you've ever played in the past.
Kent will tell you, how many times do I start a conversation with, okay, here's a really bad idea.
Oh, yeah. All the
Even
time.
I hear
I
you say that
love
a lot.
prefaces like that.
And then,
Yeah.
and then how many of them are actually bad?
The thing is, he says that as like a covering himself, where like sometimes, like 50% of the time, those are pretty good ideas. I also just want to say designers, you know, and even other people on the team, we just like sit around when we have lunch and dinner. We just
Lunch.
Yeah, we just talk about like really bad ideas all the time, and sometimes something sticks. Like I talk about this one sometimes for augments, but someone was like, I want my units to be friends. I want them to be like just good friends, and it was like, wait, there's something there, and it evolved into best friends, and that's some of where we get our inspiration. Just, you know, talking
I like that. I like
about random things.
Shout
That's
outs to the
right.
TFT team lunch train.
Yeah.
Always so fun.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I think mascots are cool too, because you know sometimes I like to imagine I have fans, so then the mascots go and cheer for me. Yeah,
Yep.
It's fantastic. Love that. Many other design stories I'm sure Ken can share in the future. But let's move on. This is a general question to anybody. I think we should go down all 4 of you. This is from Icy Cold Stare. If you were a trait or origin, what would you be and why? And since Kent just went, we'll go back to him.
Oh. We should give Alex. Do you have a good answer?
Oh,
to this?
nice,
Yeah.
Ken. All right. I'd go prankster.
Prankster, you're kind of a
Prankster.
joke. You're kind of a joker in the office.
In
Is that what's going on?
my heart, I would be. I'm more of a memer. Like if we're having a meeting, I'm always memeing in chat. Like Google Chat, I just
Got
meme.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
our Google chats for meetings is insane. Like, it's just memes
It's
the whole
Twitch
time.
chat.
It's
Twitch
Twitch
chat.
chat, yeah.
Oh,
For the entire
got
TFT
it.
team, pretty much.
So
For
it's really
serious
all
meetings.
the backseating chatters and memers in chat right now are actually just Riot Games employees.
That is
Yeah, all the TFT team specifically.
Yeah.
Right, so they're
Yeah.
the TFT
Yeah.
Riot Games
Yes.
developers. Got
Yes.
it. Okay, prankster. I'll look at my see for any whoopee cushions whenever you're around. Mort.
Oh, me. Oh God, how does this not sound arrogant? So I'm gonna be mastermind.
Yeah, I actually thought exactly the same thing. That's so good. Yes.
I think it's also because it's more of a solo trait, and you know I kind of do things on my own a little bit and a little wild, but yeah, kind of helping solve problems around the yeah.
Okay, you can't say that and not own up to it. So we need the camera to go on Mort.
Oh, no,
Mort needs to
no.
put this away, this little pouring, and you have to do the Silco Mastermind pose one time. Look very menacingly. So that we can get this screenshot and make it a sticker. Ooh, I like the shadow cast over his face. Give us a little intense stare. Give us a little,
Nice.
one more, a little intense stare at the camera. Whew. People shake.
People
All right, Christine. Thank you very much for playing along, Mort.
This is so hard for me to pick one. Because I'm a very like visual person, so in terms of like what I like, I'm gonna have if it has to be this set, then I guess Star Guardian. I just love all of the
You
Anime
got the
stuff.
Star Guardian hair.
I do have my Star Guardian hair.
Yeah, you just need a little staff, honestly, and you can kind of sell like you're in the outfit right now.
Yeah.
I like that.
I am
like
in
that.
my school, like the uniform version. I have not transformed yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nice. I like that.
All right, I
I like
didn't
that.
know
All
we
right,
were all
Ken, you had
going.
enough
All right,
time.
Ken.
Okay, I didn't know we were going all around, but yeah, I'll answer too. I think I'd go with what I aspire to be, which is innovator. I need to think ahead, and like, you know, we want to make sure the game keeps being fun, and you know, need to come up with these crazy ideas.
Good
That's
choice.
right. That's right. Are
Secretly,
you
this
like?
is a Myers-Briggs test, you know, like the traits reveal what our personality is.
So are
one of
you
those.
more like Echo and Mortog's Heimerdinger, or are you more like the Singed and who's Singed working with? Victor.
Victor.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
but if he's Silco and he's the
Oh
mastermind.
no, Jason Victor. Sorry, that's what I
Jason
meant.
Victor. Yeah, that's a good example. I'm learning from the mastermind behind all of it, who's creating creative, crazy
Got it,
things.
got it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's very nice and very aspirational. You are the protagonist of your own anime story. Yada yada.
And he's
yada.
Shadow More Dog, and I'm
All right, we got a
Kent.
few more questions, and then we'll wrap this up and then send it to the games at 11 a.m. We're about 15 minutes out, so hang in there. We are going to a question once more to Kent. Oh, no, this is the same question as before. I apologize. There's a question to everybody. It's what's next coming up? I know that the team is trying to move away from Hyperroll and get rid of it in place of a better or more fun, casual alternative mode for TFT. As someone who really appreciates that it's a less time-consuming game mode that keeps the core of the game intact, I'm wondering if this mode that would replace it would fit the same niche just in a different way for people on the go with not enough time for a full game. This is asked by Whooper, please.
Yeah, I can take this one. So, first off, the good news is Hyperroll isn't going anywhere for a while. The mode we're talking about is still a ways off. Second off, every mode we make, like a permanent game mode, has to serve a very clear player need, right? We talked about Double Up. That player need is playing with friends, not competitively against friends. For Hyperroll, that player need is shorter game sessions, right? Shorter, less stressful game sessions. If we replace Hyperroll, it will be to serve the exact same need, which is shorter game sessions, less stressful. One of the reasons we think we could take another stab at Hyperroll is we think we can do better, actually. Hyperroll is actually not that much less stressful. It's actually quite a hectic game mode. It is technically time shorter, but if we want to take another stab at that shorter game mode that's a little easier to get into, a little less stressful, and again, that's still a ways off, though. Until we have that, Hyperroll's not going anywhere.
Gotcha, that makes sense. Hyperroll, I think, is fantastic for learning the set, but I do agree that it's still kind of stressful at times.
Yeah.
In terms of just like having to manage everything. Everything's so fast and
Read the
immediate.
whole text. I'm like, oh my god.
Yes, exactly. Great. This is a question to Mortdog directly. It's another suggestions question. Well, this is our longest question yet. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines long. Wow. From Sky Tiger to Mortdog. Has there been any consideration of developing a Twitch overlay similar to Hearthstone that would allow people new to the game or new to the set to hover over champions / items / augments to read their description? Being able to read the descriptions of cards from new expansions got me interested in playing Hearthstone again. I feel like this would be even more relevant to TFT with all the new regions and traits being completely replaced every 6 months. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I would love a feature like this. The thing is, though, Riot is a pretty global company, and Twitch is a very central company to a lot of English speakers and things like that. So it's a matter of investment and where we can spend our resources to hit the widest audience. I think that feature would be great. It's just we've been a small team for so long. We're finally scaling up. Hopefully, we can deliver on something like that at some point. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Because I agree, that feature would be sick, especially somebody who streams, as a hobby. That would be great. But realistically, it's probably still a ways off.
Yeah, agreed. And I think there's some third parties that kind of get you there in a sense, like they can give you some functionality. But yeah, in the short term, we're still scaling up. I mean, it takes, even if we have the people, it takes a long time to get them onboarded and, learn the skills and getting used to working with Mort and all of his rules. So, it just takes some time.
We already gave you one little legend egg for an entire weekend of consuming content. What more do you want?
Oof.
I mean, maybe you get the egg. Who knows? Sorry, I'm actually creating more chaos for the moderators in chat right now. I'm so sorry. I can't help it. All right, a few more here. This one's about competitive TFT. Teamfight Tactics seems to have always a strong China presence, thus allowing for larger prize pools and more community events. True. What are the reasons behind the success of TFT over there, and how are you guys changing your approach to help the scene? Thank you. This is from True Beast to anybody.
This is a complicated question. I am not an expert on different cultures, so bear with me here. But the reality is, every culture out there in the world has different things that they like and they don't like, and things that they prioritize, right? And this is definitely an overgeneralization, so bear with me here. But like, for example, in North America, in the gaming sphere, like shooters tend to do much better, whereas strategy games tend to do a little bit worse. Compare that to, say, Korea, where we see things like StarCraft do really well and shooters not as well. Every region out there has their different preferences, and so a strategy game like ours that has sort of that RNG variance excitement element to it really hits the niche of a lot of games that China finds really popular. Whereas in North America, like I said, there's not as much shooters. So some of that is a big thing, and that can relate to different audiences. And so our job is to figure out where we can expand in those different regions. And like I said, this is a fairly complex question because it comes about understanding all the different cultures out there and their different preferences and things like that. And that's a really deep question.
It's a really deep question. I love that. It sounds like you're saying China just loves the Gamba, but it's also kind of true, and also it is very culturally relevant. You're not right. More got flame for like nerfing Underground because they love that kind of style all the time.
Honestly, one of the big inspirations, if you go all the way back to the original, Dota Auto Chess, was Mahjong. They talk about how Mahjong was a key inspiration.
Yes.
And so again, that's where we're talking about the culture and the inspiration for the game and why it's so relevant to that community. Where again, Mahjong is clearly not as big here in the States, for example. So it is true, and like I said, you can make overgeneralizations in bad ways, but the reality is it is important to understand your player base.
True.
So.
That is very true.
And then for the second part of the question, just in terms of building community, I mean, I think we're hopefully doing that right now with this, and Dan's help and Beyond the Summit and everyone else. So, this has been a success. So thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll have more of these in the future.
That's nice. That's nice. Yes, very much so. The community is growing. You look at the fan experience. People like Milk and all them were like, how many people are actually going to show up to the fan experience? There's hundreds of people that came by, and people were like overwhelmed with how many people that want to meet them. So it's really cool. And the reality is, just a small thing again, the question wasn't to me, but I want to answer this. TFT never really got a real chance in the sense that like TFT came out, and when the community started mobilizing, COVID hit. And so we didn't really get a chance to actually organize and show what the community is. And so this, in my opinion, is like the first true TFT community event for North America. There's been other events that happened across the scene, so I'm really happy that this one happened, but I hope that Latin America and Europe, Africa is starting to develop a little bit as well with the player making to the World Championship. It's just the beginning of TFT for hopefully a long time. Yep. Okay, a few more questions, and then we wrap it up. This one's to Christine about events.
Yes.
This is from Paper Sculpting. To Christine, Fire and Rain Lie. Wow. Full naming her. In the Lunar New Year event of 2022, it was mentioned that the little legend Dango is not allowed to use scissors. I've been thinking about this since. How did Dango lose its scissors privileges?
How did...
So while she thinks of an answer, the context here is Paper is the #1 Dango fan.
Yes.
Constantly
more than Solus.
Oh, absolutely. No, like
got it.
Paper is like makes tons of fan art, makes tons of Dangos, so that's her thing. So this is very important to the Dango lore, and the Dango community will.
It's also Dango. It's not Dango.
Dang. Oh.
All right. The Q&A might be going a little too long for this territory.
They were just rolling too fast and they tripped on a scissors and they hurt themselves. So they lost scissor privileges.
The whole Riot team actually lost scissor privileges.
Yeah.
The whole Riot team has lost. Gotcha. Yeah. That's why you just keep adding more stuff into the game because nothing gets cut.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Paper Sculpting, a.k.a. Paper the Dango Master. That is what's written here. Next question from Random. That's the username. It's a traits question. Magic resistance traits like enchanters, mystics, etc. always seem overlooked every set, especially compared to armor traits like Vanguard, Ironclad, etc. I'm guessing Defender this set. Despite most sets having a good split in AP versus AD carries, do you think that we go on with new ideas on how magic resistance traits can react like the new Aegis traits? This will change. Let me read that again.
Yeah, I didn't quite follow the question again. There.
Do you think that as we go on with new sets or new ideas on how magic resistance traits can react, like the new Aegis traits, this will change?
So I guess I'm not really understanding the question, but I'm gonna take this in a slightly different.
Maybe there's just not enough variance, like set to set, maybe.
Well, right. So one of the challenges we are going to run into is that the game only has so many stats, right? Armor, health, magic resist, things like that. And there's only so many different ways to contextualize how we give that to you before it just becomes overcomplicating it for the sake of complexity, right? Mystic is just your team gets MR. Aegis is your team gets some MR, but they get more MR, right? We can have ones that's literally just they get MR. We can, give the MR at random intervals. We can do ramping MR, right? But it's again, at some point, you're just kind of reinventing the wheel for the sake of novelty, and you're not getting as much value. And especially in the classes space where it's so stats focused, there's not really a need to keep reinventing that wheel. And so overall, I don't expect a ton of innovation, but something like Aegis, for example, I think has been one of those healthier slight innovations compared to, say, Mystic.
It's a little more selfish, which is cool because it's always been about the team and not about them. So I like that variation. Great. We have two more. This one's to anybody. This one is from chat. Whoa.
Uh-oh.
Favorite/personal opinion. What happens when two chibis with KO animations knock each other out as a result of a tie?
So both of them won't play. Only one of them will play. And it's like very, very rare that this will happen. And there's some yelling going on in the background.
So Hafu, Becca, and Bryce are yelling at each other about something.
But I think more you explained it to me earlier is basically it will go by placement. So whoever comes out winning in that placement will have their animation play.
Gotcha.
What is very rare. Like that will happen though, because they have to be the same health and etc. So yeah.
I'm down for it to just be like a dramatic scene where like the two little legends play them back to back and just keep wasting
or just like
everyone's
split
time.
the screen in half.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
That's true. That's
that'd be
true.
cool.
I
But
like
one of the
that.
key things about finishers is that we have to fit it into that specific time frame. We can't just extend the game longer. So like those are one of the things that we look into when we create the finishers. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Well, that's a very rare occasion, so I think
Yeah.
that'd be really fun if something special happened like that. All right, the last question is another what's next question from random. I'm guessing random just means a person we don't know. To Fire and Rain, aka Christine.
Yes.
Since the mythic chibis with their finishers, we haven't gotten a mythic little legend. Is there any plans for more mythic little legends, and would they get finishers? For example, I'd love mythic dangos whose finisher is just eating the enemy.
Paper asked this? I guess it's, I don't know. But we do feel like finishers is very special to Chibi's identity, so that's why we've kept it mainly in Chibi and finishers tied together. We're still exploring what additional features that we can add to Mythic Little Legends and make sure that it resonates with a Mythic Little Legends instead of just like copy pasting something over. So yeah, we're still looking into it. We want to make sure that we have new content as well that are resonant instead of just like copy pasting, or else it's just going to be the same.
Gotcha. Okay. That was our last official question. Actually, real quick, what are the little legends that you rock individually? Ken, what little legend do you play?
Ooh, I'm currently playing the Baron one, but I also sometimes run Kaisa Chibi because it's purple. My favorite color is purple.
That's true,
I'm really
true.
waiting for the Chibi Lilio to come out so I can use that one forever.
Okay, gotcha. Alex, are you a chibi connoisseur?
No, I'm a talker main.
You're a
Talker main.
Lies. I saw you use
that's like the little. That's like the one
dragon
Kyvix
yep.
uses. It's like the little roll up thing. Okay, more
Laser
dog.
people.
I'm using Baron right now. I like the Baron.
Okay. Moore's not. He can't be locked down in one little legend. He just has so many of them to hang out and
Yep.
please with. All right. Well, with that, we are done with the developer Q&A. Thank you so much to Christine, Alex, Kent, and Mort for joining us. In just a few minutes, we're going to kick off the final day of the summit. We're going to start off with the wildcard playoffs. One team out of the remaining 8 will be participating to try to fight for one spot in that top 4, joining the top 3. And then we're going to be doing a checkmate playoffs because North America apparently sucks at checkmate. Trying to call this out. We got to practice sometime. Why not? Don't go anywhere. The last day of Summit begins right after this.